Good evening and welcome back to the Heal Security Dispatch Deep Dive with your hosts Mark Davis, a cybersecurity analyst, and Diana Richards, a technology strategist focused on keeping healthcare secure, your trusted source for the latest in cybersecurity trends and expert insights, proudly presented by Heal Security. Today is Friday, November 28, 2025. Okay, let's unpack this. We have a really fascinating stack of sources today that truly highlight the dual nature of the modern threat landscape.
It really does.
On one hand, we're seeing new tools designed to boost transparency, to fight against all that mass scanning. And on the other, we have these incredibly targeted, high-stakes supply chain attacks. Our mission today is to really distill these reports into actionable knowledge for you, focusing on both the defense strategies and, well, the strategic adaptations of the adversary.
Precisely. If there's one overriding theme, it's adaptation. I mean, we're seeing adversaries adapting so rapidly to infrastructural changes, using chaos as a feature, and at the same time, they're attacking the very foundation of modern software.
The foundation itself.
Exactly. So we need to look at both. The tools offered to help everyday users, cope with the sheer volume of threats, and also these highly sophisticated campaigns that are targeting the developers who build everything.
Let's start with a win for the defense side then. Let's talk about transparency. GrapheneOS has introduced a new free scanner for the public. What's the core functionality here? And I guess, why does this matter more than just your standard virus scan?
So this is a crucial, quick visibility tool. It's really aimed at cutting through all that noise.
Okay.
It checks if your IP address appears in GrapheneOS's massive data sets, the ones linked to known malicious scanning activity. And crucially, they differentiate between a targeted attack and just generalized large-scale scanning, like botnets.
So it helps you figure out if some weird network behavior you're seeing, maybe a spike in traffic, is tied to a known global campaign. But why should, say, a small business owner care if they're being scanned by a known botnet? I mean, doesn't everyone get scanned constantly anyway?
Yeah, and that's the key difference. A standard tool might just flag every little lookup as a potential threat. GrapheneOS is filtering out the benign, noisy stuff, and it focuses on the malicious activity that's actually linked to documented active operations.
Ah, I see.
So if your IP gets flagged, the conversation just instantly shifts. It's no longer, am I being scanned, which you're right, happens every second. It's, am I currently participating in or about to be compromised by a mass-scale attack like Mirai?
Right. It changes the conversation from, am I compromised, to, am I part of something bigger? This visibility helps users understand their specific role in the threat landscape. It's like an early detection system.
Exactly. It offers context. If you're a small business or even just a curious user trying to figure out why your network is sluggish, this free tool gives you a shortcut. You can see if the problem is just you, or if you've been swept up into a global automated operation.
Now, let's move from those defense tools to how attackers are using infrastructure.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. We saw a new Mirai-based strain, ShadowV2, appear briefly. What was so noteworthy about its appearance, especially the timing?
The timing tells us everything. It really points to a strategic shift. Researchers detected ShadowV2 testing exploits against vulnerable IoT devices.
What?
Precisely during a massive multi-region cloud outage.
Wow.
An outage that caused widespread internet disruption everywhere.
That is just incredibly opportunistic. So they used the confusion and the massive disruption of a cloud provider failure to mask what they were doing.
That's the analytical takeaway, yeah. Analysts believe the operators were just experimenting. They were using the cover of that global service disruption, which generates this massive amount of legitimate, chaotic network traffic as a shield before a bigger rollout.
It's signal masking.
Exactly, signal masking. When your sysadmins and your incident response teams are completely overloaded just trying to fix the cloud outage, they're far less likely to spot a controlled test of a new botnet strain.
So they're using the noise from a legitimate failure to hide their malicious signal. That's a sophisticated operational element. It shows they're proactively pairing these outages with their malware experiments to test distribution, evasion, all without immediate detection.
Precisely. And this means our incident response planning has to evolve, right? We usually plan for one disaster at a time. Now we have to consider that a major outage might actually trigger a wave of secondary opportunistic attacks.
Attacks designed to fly under the radar during the chaos. And while the IoT world is dealing with that, the mobile world just continues its relentless march toward high-volume monetization. We also have Q3 reports showing this massive surge in mobile threats, mostly on Android. What were the key threats we saw dominating?
We saw significant growth in three main categories: banking Trojans, sophisticated ransomware, and these really aggressive, persistent adware families.
The usual suspect.
The usual suspects, but evolving. Banking malware in particular showed steady evolution. They're not just phishing anymore. They're focusing on stealthier delivery methods and refining their ability to do overlay attacks that can bypass modern multi-factor authentication.
When you say evolution, what are the new tactics? Are they still just relying on users side-loading apps?
Not just that. They're getting much better at refining distribution, using compromised legitimate apps or leveraging permission abuse in some really creative ways.
So they hide inside something that looks safe.
Right. And the newer generations of these Trojans are much better at just staying dormant until you open a financial app. Then they use these sophisticated overlay screens to harvest your credentials in real time. It just underscores that mobile is now the primary access point for so many financial transactions.
And the scale is just staggering. The sources mentioned millions of attempted infections were blocked in Q3 alone. It gives you a sense of the sheer industrial scale of this.
It absolutely does. It reflects a major shift by criminals toward monetizing mobile at scale. They know the friction for an attack is lower, and the reward is higher because of that direct link to banking apps. It's high volume, high reward.
Let's pivot now. Let's go from those high-volume opportunistic threats to the really targeted fundamental attacks, the ones aimed squarely at the developer community where the stakes are just incredibly high.
Yes, this is where we see a critical escalation. If you can't breach the company, you breach the builder.
Exactly. So a North Korean threat group, known for its focus on IP and financial theft, launched a really sophisticated supply chain campaign. What was their specific mechanism of attack here?
They deployed nearly 200 malicious NPM packages. I mean, that is a massive operational scale targeting the open source community.
200 packages.
The goal was to infect developers who would unknowingly download and integrate these packages into their projects. Once executed, the malicious packages delivered an upgraded variant of the OVHcloud malware.
200 packages is a huge commitment of resources for a nation-state actor. It shows how critical this vector is to them. But why NPM specifically?
Well, because NPM is the lifeblood of modern web and application development. Every modern application relies on hundreds, sometimes thousands, of external dependencies pulled from registries like NPM. It's the highest leverage point you can find.
So by creating nearly 200 packages, they just increase their chances through things like typo-squatting or subtle name variations?
Yes, exactly. Hoping developers accidentally include them.
And what was OVHcloud designed to steal once it's on a developer's machine? This isn't just general data theft, is it?
No, not at all. This variant is hyper-focused. It targets sensitive development resources, credentials, browser data, and critically crypto-related information.
And for a developer, browser data isn't just history. It's session tokens for GitHub, it's SSO credentials for AWS, for internal company sites.
All of it. And stealing crypto-related info, like private keys or signing keys, offers immediate direct financial benefit and long-term control.
The fact that thousands of downloads happened before these packages were even found, I mean, that just highlights how fast this group can operationalize a massive supply chain attack. It really drives home the trust deficit in the open source world.
It does. It shows this group recognizes that developers hold the keys to huge amounts of intellectual property and financial assets. A developer's machine is a strategic target.
And connecting this sophisticated attack to something more mundane but just as dangerous, sources also point out a significant risk in legacy Python bootstrap scripts. This seems less about nation-state ingenuity and more about just internal technical debt.
That's absolutely right. This is where high-tech threats meet low-tech complacency. These older scripts, written years ago to simplify a project setup, can unintentionally expose developers to supply chain attacks because they may pull necessary dependencies from unverified or unauthenticated sources.
So you're building a new project, you run the old script, and it silently imports a malicious package because the original source path was never secured or updated to enforce modern checks.
Precisely. It's the digital equivalent of trusting a decade-old map for a journey. The core issue is that these outdated installation methods are still widely used in older projects, mainly because of that classic developer mindset. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But in today's threat landscape, that approach just inherits a massive foundational risk.
It does. I mean, the industry has been pushing for secure dependency management for years.
So why are these scripts still around?
It comes down to friction and scale. Auditing and rewriting these scripts for massive multi-decade projects is time-consuming. It's expensive. Companies often prioritize fixing current bugs over auditing their historical foundations. And this raises a really important question for you, the listener. Are your legacy setups audited? Are your build pipelines modernized? Because if you're relying on old bootstrap scripts, you are inheriting a serious exploitable risk.
Okay, let's shift gears from the software supply chain to the real-world consequences. The cyber attack on the Japanese beverage company Asahi. This has caused severe operational disruption. This isn't just data loss. This is the physical business halting.
This was clearly not a minor breach. Reports indicate that production and logistics systems were affected, causing significant delays across several business units globally.
They're in manual restoration now, right?
They are, and the early indications suggest a highly coordinated, targeted intrusion.
We often talk about IT security losing customer data, but Asahi really highlights the growing risk to OT, operational technology, which controls physical processes like bottling and distribution. Was this attack specifically aimed at OT disruption, or was that just collateral damage from a sprawling IT breach?
Well, while the definitive details are still emerging, the results, a production halt, suggest the attackers either got direct access to the OT networks or they leveraged the tight interconnection between the IT systems like inventory management and the OT systems. That line is getting blurrier every day.
And when a cyber attack halts a production line, the financial and reputational damage just due, it far exceeds a typical data theft.
Absolutely. This incident serves as a stark warning to the entire manufacturing sector. It's about the impact of targeted attacks that aim to halt physical operations, not just steal data. It emphasizes that OT security is now a critical business continuity issue.
And finally, we have the strategic move by GrapheneOS. It speaks so powerfully to the tension between privacy, jurisdiction, and this challenge of digital sovereignty. It moves beyond just tech vulnerabilities into geopolitics.
That's right. GrapheneOS, the security and privacy-focused Android OS project, is pulling its infrastructure from OVHcloud. And it's because of rising tensions over privacy and regulatory pressures in France.
So this isn't a technical bug, it's a legal flight. They're essentially voting with their feet. They've decided the local regulatory environment is just too risky to host a privacy-focused platform there. What are the specific pressures?
The concern revolves around two big areas you see in many places: mandatory data retention laws and surveillance mandates that give law enforcement expansive powers to compel data access.
Right.
For a project whose entire value proposition is maximizing user privacy, hosting infrastructure in a country where that privacy can be legally undermined, well, it creates an inherent conflict. It destroys user trust.
So their developers basically concluded that the risk of a French authority compelling OVHcloud to hand over their server logs was just too high.
That's exactly right. And this decision, it's a significant shift. It highlights these ongoing international disputes about digital sovereignty and data hosting obligations. It forces companies and users to consider the jurisdiction of their cloud services as a security feature, maybe even one that's equal to encryption.
The ultimate takeaway there is that security isn't just about firewalls and patches anymore. It's about auditing your legal environment as much as you audit your code.
Correct. The legal geography of your data is a vulnerability. And for security-first organizations, placing infrastructure in certain regions introduces an unacceptable legal risk that no amount of tech can mitigate.
So what does this all mean for the security landscape right now? We've seen the attacker landscape grow simultaneously more opportunistic, using massive cloud outages to test malware with ShadowV2, and more fundamentally targeted, attacking developers through their code dependencies with these huge NPM campaigns.
The major takeaway is that securing the perimeter just isn't enough anymore. Defense has to extend to auditing the historical foundations of our systems, like those legacy Python scripts, and to critically evaluating the geopolitical risks in hosting decisions, like GrapheneOS just did.
The lesson seems clear. If you ignore your technical debt, nation-state actors will happily use it against you. And if you're not thinking about the legal jurisdiction of your cloud provider, you might be adding a whole new class of risk without even knowing it.
We hope this analysis provides you with the knowledge you need to approach these complex issues with, greater clarity and apply these insights to your own security posture.
This has been a true deep dive into the latest developments. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And as always, we'll leave you with a provocative thought. Considering that ShadowV2 incident, the deliberate use of infrastructural chaos for signal masking, if attackers are now building noise into their operational planning, how should our incident response plans change to prioritize finding malicious activity specifically during periods of widespread, legitimate failure?
Thank you for joining us for this edition of HEAL Security Dispatch Deep Dive. We appreciate your time and hope today's insights provided valuable perspective. Be sure to tune in again on Monday for more expert updates and critical cybersecurity news. Don't forget to like, subscribe for ongoing coverage, and sign up for a free trial of Heal Security Desktop at healsecurity.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and continue to secure your digital world.